1, 2, 3, go. Let's see, okay, we just did the quorum thing. If you had a chance to take a look at the minutes.
Everything's okay with Elizabeth, because she's always so good about, maybe there's someone's car out there. So Elizabeth is always so good about being here. I haven't heard
She's
anything.
always here.
She was at the
Always.
library earlier today and said she was coming today, so.
Yeah,
Oh, she might
okay,
be
maybe
running
that was
late.
her
Yeah, she
car
might just be
then.
running a little late, yeah.
Yeah.
You saw her car?
No, but I heard
Sure.
some click in it,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll call her when I get home if she doesn't come.
Yeah, especially it's odd if you saw her earlier
Yeah.
too.
Oh, speak of the devil.
Oh, there she
There
is.
she
Just
is.
a second.
Don't worry about you. I saved you. No, it's the one to sit next to me, Elizabeth.
Matt knew I was coming.
Yeah, I let them
That's
know.
what- yeah.
I saw you earlier.
Can't get away with anything.
No, no, you can't.
Okay. Alrighty, are the minutes accepted?
I'll make a motion. You want to second it?
In
I second.
favor?
In favor? Aye.
I have to abstain, it wasn't there.
Well, you still can because you read it.
Because they read it, all right, aye.
Alrighty.
All in favor.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, all your citizens back there, okay. Then we'll head right into, I guess, the police department.
So not a ton of new information. We are, I think as probably most of you know, in our budget cycle and season, so we presented our initial proposal. We're about $100,000, $117,000 over the default number. So we don't have any real significant increases. The increases that we're seeing, most of it's IT driven, so that's a large number. A lot of it is subscription services that we have, so a lot of these software type programs that we're into, we've seen significant increases. One, for example, is a software called Cellbrite. It's actually how we do a cell phone extraction or hard drive extraction for evidentiary for forensics purposes. The company, as they keep up with the technology being pushed by, say, like iPhone and Apple, as they keep developing the technology to crack these things, the cell phone carriers and the makers come back and combat it. So it's a constant cat and mouse game. So we're seeing increased costs on a lot of those types of software programs. The other big increase for us is on our training line. We currently budget about $44,000 for training, and that's to train 68 sworn police officers, 8 dispatchers. A lot of the training that we do is required by the state, and we've seen incremental increases in training requirements since 2020. So we're up to about 40 hours of state required training per officer. So as you'd imagine, $44,000, that's less than $300 an officer. So it doesn't go very far. So we took a hard look at that number. We've increased that line. Our training line for years, it has been underfunded. Everything from equipment to bullets to targets to actual cost to send somebody to a tuition cost to send somebody to a class comes from that line. So that was one of the lines we targeted about 3 or 4 years ago and said, hey, we got to start writing some of these lines in order to staff up. And I think this is the last of the big lines. We took a run at the cars, we took a run at the building, and now we're taking a run at that training line. So all these lines were drastically underfunded. So this is I think the last of the big adjustments. And then from there, we'll just do minor tweaks here and there. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Once we get this line done, this is now we can start actually hiring up our police officers. We're sitting at 62 sworn today. We have one swearing in
Yes.
2
it's,
weeks.
The second,
The second, yeah. So that'll bring us to 63 sworn, and we have 2 in the background. So we're excited. So again, our numbers are pretty good compared to other people. We do a very good job recruiting and hiring certified officers from around the state or around the country. So we like up there. But yeah, so
That's good.
budget cycle, we're plugging along. Not to be confused with some of the other asks. I think there was some confusion we saw yesterday and some of the days prior. We presented our budget, which was a pretty modest increase and increasing where we needed to. And then we were asked by both the town council and the budget committee, hey, what other things would you need or would you like to see? So we presented 2 additional items that say, hey, that were kind of in our 3 to 5 year plan. Some was additional strength, so additional officers. Another was the possibility of obtaining body cams. So we presented it, and those ideas have actually gained a little bit of traction. So I don't know if those will go to warrant. There's a possibility they can go to warrant. They asked us what it would look like if we went to 6 officers, so we gave them basically a cost proposal for 6 officers, 4 officers, 2 officers. The 2 officer proposal, we were marketing or pitching it as a traffic unit. As you'd imagine, since COVID ended, we get a lot of traffic complaints. Most of it comes to the Traffic Safety Committee. We don't like to advertise this, but our officers, because of call volume, they dedicate about 6.9 hours a week. That's the average to dedicated traffic. So that means a complaint has come in, we're gonna send that person to that neighborhood to watch those stop signs or to run radar. Well, what inevitably happens is that officer goes there to set up, he calls out, he's now gonna run, say, radar for a half hour, but then he gets a call for service, or she gets a call for service. So then they have to leave that traffic post and go somewhere else. So our intent here with that 2 officer traffic unit proposals, that's what those officers would do. We'd put them on a cover shift, and instead of being assigned a sector that they're gonna be, we call a radio car and respond to calls, all they're gonna do are all those special attention traffic requests. So, this neighborhood's requesting stop sign enforcement here, that's what that officer will do.
They
There's
don't have to
speed,
be called away.
there's speed concerns here, that's what they'll have to do. And they won't necessarily be called away. Obviously,
Might need to.
if they're in that area and
Right.
another officer needs a second car or something like that, they'll handle that. But the idea to attack that problem is to approach it that way. And I'd be welcome to share the data with you, but
What was the 6.9? You said, is that 6.9 hours?
yeah, so when we average it out, it's 6.9 hours of dedicated traffic enforcement. So that's the time where that officer is responding to a
A
specific
day?
complaint a week.
A week.
Oh, a week.
A week.
Okay, yeah.
Be
Now,
a
that's
lot
not,
of it.
that doesn't discount the officer from, as they're traveling through town, stopping people for speed or those other things. But it's 6.9 hours dedicated to, like, this complaint came in from John Q. Public, and now I'm in this neighborhood for that reason.
That doesn't seem like that's too bad, 6.9 hours. Is that?
We've seen a 300% increase in traffic complaints.
So it used to be like 3? 3 point, you're saying it's like,
So I'm saying
It's like an hour a day.
yeah, so essentially the 6.9 hours.
It's like an hour, Dave.
So our day shift, our evening shift, and our midnight shift, when they go to a dedicated call for service related to traffic enforcement, amongst all those shifts, we're only getting about 6.9 hours a week of dedicated traffic enforcement. And in the meantime, we're getting increases in accidents, complaints, all the things that come with no traffic enforcement, so.
but that's 6.9 hours, that's up 300%?
No, the
Complaints.
complaints are.
Oh, the complaints are?
Yeah, so we can't keep up with the amount of complaints we're getting.
Is that like every year it gets worse, or you
Yes.
jumping for some?
No, so there's been a steady increase in
The
complaints.
population's grown so much.
Growing.
So population, traffic,
Yeah.
um,
Wow.
What
our-
about
Besides all the
race?
passer people.
yeah,
the-
our accidents with serious bodily injury or death are up. So it's just one of those things, where it's like, it's kind of a core mission set that we would like to provide the town. We just don't have dedicated officers to doing it right now based on our staffing numbers. I mean, in a perfect world, we would just simply add a sector. We would raise minimum staffing every shift, add a sector, and now there'd be less calls pulling me from a traffic assignment. But that becomes cost prohibitive pretty quickly, because for us to do that, there would be 6 officers. And that's how we had pitched that for the potential for Arconia Health with that. If that health billing came in, we were pitching, they were gonna float the $1 million number you guys kept hearing about.
Right.
That was crafted around us to increase our staffing, one officer per shift. Our minimum staffing or our patrol force that's facing the public is the same as it was in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know
Yeah.
how big
So-
that town is.
Jeez, right.
I'm looking at like Woodmont, every time I drive
Yeah.
by, there's another,
Apartment building.
yeah,
yes,
a building going in,
Yeah.
yeah.
another 3-story building going up. And I think there's a lot of development in town, so it would seem to me that traffic complaints is probably a function of
Yes,
density.
it's just regular growth, yeah. That's exactly what's wrong. And we just, our staffing levels aren't, right now, we're not equipped to handle the amount of traffic calls we're getting, so. One of the proposals we made was, hey, maybe we can take a shot at it, this would be a way of running at it, and we try to be responsible with the ask, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, give me 6 officers, but it's $1 million price tag. So by pivoting here, we're saying, well, let's maybe focus on 2, and we can dedicate them to traffic hours. So those 2 officers, between the 2 of them, they're working, say, an 80-hour week. We can take that 6.9 number and really bring it up to
Bring it up.
dedicated traffic enforcement. So you may be seeing that, but to be clear, that's likely to go to warrant, and that's not the actual budget number. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, really for the library, the main thing is that we have officially joined the consortium now.
Congratulations.
Thank you, yeah.
Ron.
Last week I did 3 instruction sessions on the new catalog. So we had 2 at the library, 1 at the senior center actually. They were, I wish they were a little bit better attended. We did have a few people though. So it was some good training for them to see how to log into their new account and everything. Put items on hold, all that kind of
So
stuff.
you're gonna offer more of those?
So I'm hoping we will. I think we
Yeah.
will, and I'm also planning on putting together like a little training video that we can put on our
Very
website or something
nice.
like that. So that'll be good. That's really the big news. So for the consortium, we get van deliveries Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now, which means like we always have obviously like shipments coming in and going out. So if you request an item on Tuesday, say, there's a good chance you get it on Wednesday. So there are
Different
definitely a lot of
calendar.
benefits to it. So that's really it, and also just keep your eye out for the December calendar because we're going to have a lot of good programs, especially for seniors to attend. We're going to have like a the New Hampshire Handbell Choir, I think it is going to be playing
Oh.
holiday and
Neat.
Christmas music.
Those
so-
are neat.
Yeah, so that'll be good.
It's
And
December 12th, I've already looked at the
oh, good job.
calendar.
So you knew more better than me.
The calendar is, if you look online, it's up.
Yep, yeah,
Oh,
the calendar
nice.
is for December is up online.
Yeah.
That's really all I have for today. So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah.
Alrighty,
I didn't add the transportation authority, Jim, I forgot about that. For the new, for your,
oh, for the,
yeah,
okay. The first thing I want to look at is transportation issues, John?
Okay. Going back to, first principles, I guess, our charter is to make recommendations and so on for new services and activities and so on. So, what I'd like to do tonight, hopefully, is try to get the committee's agreement that we ask the town council or to put a warrant article on the ballot to enable us to use this $5 fee or any,
Add
actually.
on the
Yeah,
$5,
what?
add it on.
Yeah, adding on the
Yeah.
$5 to the registration. Now, did you see the email I sent to you?
When did you send that? Was it before the election?
No, actually, I don't know.
I think
I actually
I
did.
think
But
I
anyway,
went through it.
The reason I asked was, I was trying to find out, get an update on how many registrations there were.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
That's
I
okay,
didn't see that.
but I went into the 2023 town report.
Right.
And in
'Cause
there,
we
there's
do
a little.
list it there,
yeah,
you're right,
And it
yeah.
was 44,000,
Yeah, it
but that
was, that's
included
right.
boats.
Yeah,
So I took out, and I just used 40, okay?
that's what I would have
That
done,
was
right?
just,
Yep.
anyway, but if we did $5 at 40,000 registrations, that's $200,000. Now sounds like a lot of money, but the prices of things now, it's expensive. So, let me show you what I've got here, 'cause I've got copies of I think I got enough of these. I got copies of the, the RSA, okay? So you don't have to read it now, but I thought you might want to have a copy, okay? And these are my.
Do you all have one down there?
No, he has 2.
Oh,
We'll just peruse it,
Yeah.
we'll peruse it.
Well, listen,
Here, I got a bunch of them, you can send them around, but basically, when you do the RSA, okay, there's specific, there's not, the legislation doesn't have the specific wording, but you basically need to say in there that you wanna do it, you say how much money you wanna take out, and then you can, if you want to, you can say specifically what you wanna use the money for, okay? So if you look at, in the section, in the RSA itself, it gives some examples, okay? Gotta get to the right page here. I think it's the second page, and it gives examples of things that you can use the money, and it's basically broad, but public transportation is on there. And the other one, which I was interested in, is there's a description of pedestrian facilities, okay? I'm not sure what that means.
I know, I'm not even.
So I guess it could be, I'm thinking it's sidewalks and crosswalks and things like that, okay? So, we couldn't get any information out of the master plan yet relative to transportation. But what they did do, when you go through the survey data, there is a lot of people that when they asked for what they wanted to do, they wanted to be, the town to be more walkable and safer to walk. So, if we ask her to, if we do this, I was suggesting that we say we're gonna use it for two things: public transportation and, the pedestrian facilities, which would allow us to put money into, I think the big thing to put money into is to start eliminating a lot of roads that have a short, line of sight and no siding. You go out every day.
my guess is pedestrian facilities would probably include, say, crosswalks,
Mm.
lighted intersections, stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But I think we could get
Sidewalks.
away with, fixing the street so you can walk on it without getting hit by a
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Okay? But in any case,
Can look
now,
at
when I originally started doing this, I thought we could just put a warrant article like anybody else could. But I don't think we can, or I don't think we should, because for one thing, this requires to have a, public hearing on it. And we are really a standing committee of
Advisory.
the town.
Yeah.
Right, I think we're at the same kind of status as the planning board or anybody else. And those warning articles typically flow through the town government, puts those on. And the other thing is that I didn't wanna go through the trouble if we did it as a individual warrant article. And then it passes or doesn't pass, but if it passes, then it's not, the town doesn't have the support to do it. So that's what I would like to get a vote, because I rushed around on this because I realized that we're not gonna meet in December. So that is the time that would put us into January, and lots of things have to be done by the
I think the
second or third week of January relative to warrant articles.
like the 14th,
Yeah,
something, I could be
He
wrong,
said
but
it
I
at
think
the
it's
meeting, I forgot
14th.
what he said.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
they said at the meeting, Justin had mentioned at the meeting.
Yeah, I forgot what it
I
was.
forget the conversation, but someone was
Yeah.
all over him about
Yeah,
telling him
I
the
Yeah.
date.
think, I
So,
think it was the 14th.
so I have a question. So, if it were approved and the warrant article was approved, I don't really know the terminology,
Yeah.
right? Would it always be that $5? The reason I say this is, what if, Jim, we started with a $2? I know you're going for the high, cause 5 is the max, but maybe you'll have a better chance of getting it approved if it's a lesser dollar amount, but then up it in a couple of years as needed. But that led me back to my initial question: if the warrant is approved for the $2, would you have to then again
You
get
would.
approved
Yes.
again to
It
up
would
it?
depend, it would depend on
Okay.
how you word it
that's
originally.
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you said, say you worded it to create a fee, as permitted under 261-153, that could probably allow you to move up and down depending on how you define it.
Okay.
If you were to say $5, it's $5.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm not certain, to be honest with you, the absolutely, can't remember now, it's in here,
Okay.
the deal with it, but what the town actually has to put the amount of fee that they're going to be.
they wouldn't.
Yeah, because you can do,
Yep.
you know, 10 cents to $5 is the range. So,
I think you have a better chance, if you were to play this out, you probably have a better chance of getting it passed if you could specifically state what the fee is and where it's going.
yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, and this is just my experience being at those hearings, a lot of folks, right, wrong, or indifferent, are often skeptical of, say, giving the town the right to take anywhere from 5 cents to
Yeah.
$5 and then allowing them to choose. So I think if you, like, I'm the liaison, but if you guys were to move forward as a committee with it, I think it would be in your best interest to craft the warrant specifically for a specific amount of money and for a specific purpose.
Okay, that's, yeah,
You'd have a better chance of getting
Sure.
a better chance
So
of getting
they'd
buy-in.
understand.
it's
Yeah.
not appropriate, not to say how much money you're gonna put.
Yeah.
But I thought, I actually, as I was going through this and putting, let me pass this around too. This is another thing that kinda explains why I think we better do it now rather than later.
But now, wouldn't the
Kansas,
street
right?
safety, John, like the turns that are
Okay.
unsafe, no, wouldn't that come out of like the trust fund, like Dave Wally, the trust, DPW?
Yes, I was just looking at this. What it really says is it's deposited into the Municipal Transportation Improvement Fund.
You have to
So
create
it'd be
that.
okay.
Unless
Go
there's one,
into the trust
unless there's
fund?
one created.
Yeah,
It's gotta go through a specific fund, according to this warrant article. Yeah,
Yes.
so we'd have to create a new fund for it, but I assume that's not,
But I think that,
Yeah.
because it's going to be enduring,
right.
right, then I think that all of the things that they talk about here that it could be used for should probably be in the warrant article, because you may use that for the future, including charging stations and all the rest of that good stuff.
Well, but I'm afraid if we, keep in mind, we're the senior resource committee. I'm afraid that if we left it wide open,
It wouldn't be used
this
for
money would go
seniors.
to filling potholes or something.
Right,
Or
it wouldn't be
our
used
intent
where we
is
want
to
it,
help
yeah.
seniors, right? So I think the two things, I think that are on there are almost aimed at seniors. One is the transportation, and two is make the neighborhood safe so they can walk on it. You know, so many people have to cross the street to get their mail, and it's like, it's like crossing a major highway.
I think
That's-
that part's really difficult though, because
I think
we're
that's
talking
more
about a
public
town that's
works.
rural, that has no sidewalks whatsoever, and
Yeah.
you're really like opening a can of worms on that one. I just can't see how that would at all be something that we could even approach to fix.
Well,
I
what you
mean,
could do is put,
You-
only because I've been driving through Boston so much lately, they have bike lanes. They're teeny tiny just for a bike.
yeah, but we're talking
You
about
could
like,
do an extra line, this is a pedestrian line,
Yeah.
don't cross it.
It's
You
like-
know?
Cause Mammoth Road is a
Right.
state road, so we wouldn't be able to do anything on that, and
Yeah.
then, you know, the smaller roads that
I
are
know
just like
those all.
regular roads,
You know, unlike a city, it's not necessarily a planned straight road,
Right.
T
Well, it's
intersection.
just
They-
turning.
it's not
Yeah.
planned to have
And then
sidewalks and all
who
that
do you
kind of stuff.
help with their mailbox situation? 'Cause I think a high range, so
We
many
don't even have
people have
curbing,
to.
so
One of the
Yeah.
things,
You know.
one of the things I thought about the mailbox business, I was gonna actually check with the postmaster and say, what does it take for you to go down both sides of the road? You know, well, all the mailboxes are either on the right or left.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk them into, on some of these really bad places to move, add another 10, 15 minutes a day on the delivery cycle.
It's not just 10, 15 minutes a day in delivery cycle. Now you ride that road on both sides. Now we're talking gas, we're talking
No,
vehicle
I-
maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
It's a
we do it for the
wonderful
whole
idea,
town.
It is.
Yeah, I'm just-
In theory,
Make
it's
some-
good,
Take
but-
them
make some
twice
ex-
as-
make
twice
some
as long,
exceptions
right?
for the really dangerous
Sure.
places.
I'm just saying, it's
But
it's
anyway,
one at a
that's,
time.
that's not a here
Yeah.
nor there, I guess, but in any case, I think there is things that can be done without costing too much. If everybody that drives around town, I'm sure you go down roads that have curves on them, that the line of sight, there's a line of sight if you have a curb cut, I think it's 300 and some feet that you have to have line of sight. Well, if you use that as a yardstick and you looked at these roads where it's not everywhere, but where there's a built-up zone, and you have a line of sight problem, okay, you fix it. You don't have, one of the things you can do is usually basically cut down the vegetation that's causing you not to be able to see around the corner, or make the siding wider, okay? Just go, don't do it across town, but just start with the most dangerous places. I'm sure everybody can think of places where, if you think about line of sight, and the other thing that you can spot is, it's how many people, when you're driving around town, get annoyed by the UPS truck, the prime truck, all of the landscapers. They park in incredibly dangerous places, and they don't even bother to pull the vehicles. So I think there's a lot that can be done. Now, granted, $200,000 doesn't go very far, but you're gonna get this every year, reasonably steady.
Yeah, now,
Yeah,
like
if
with the, sorry, but with the, people that have trouble with their vision, we just had a situation on one of the Kings, and it was the brush and the trees, and very dangerous for the people walking on a cul-de-sac street. And I just, they called me, as the clerk's office, I reached out to Dave Wally, and within a short period of time, they went in, corrected the problems with the brush, and then they were happy, and the neighborhood called to say thank you to everyone, but, so those things, generally, I think of that as a
Yeah, it's
Dave
more
Wally,
DPW.
and his wonderful team, because, and, even with road different things,
Did
or
we
the
talk about
police, when it
cart?
gets really bad.
Didn't you bring up CART before?
Is that what
Yeah.
we're thinking the money
Supplemental.
would be,
I was
John,
gonna say,
to
cause
the car?
if you have a warrant article that doesn't
Well, I have another-
specify what transportation, that doesn't mean anything to me.
If you
Yeah.
Like,
take
what
a-
is, what
if you
kind
take
of
a look
transportation?
at
Yeah, we all have
Are we
If you
thinking
look
of-
at this,
yeah,
what I tried
raising-
to attempt to do with this was to say, okay, suppose we have the money and we're going to deal with not this problem, but transportation, okay? I said, how that would work time-wise. And if you read through here, you can question some of my estimates. But if we started doing this, say, passed it in this March, it's gonna be almost a year before you actually can really get something going, because this money doesn't show up day after.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Right.
the
July
money's gotta
1.
be collected over a
Yeah.
period of time. And the other thing about the transportation is that you have to consider is that I think with this fund, we'd always have to keep a balance in it that would cover the transportation for, 6 months. Because you don't wanna have to get a transportation system going and not know that you're always going to be able to go 6 months out, where you can't stop transportation on a dime because of some problem. So you always, you have to have the money, plus I think at least, half of a year. Like when the state divvies out money, they generally speaking, when they're giving it to like CART and so on, they basically give the money for a 2-year period. They guarantee the money will be there for 2 years, so that people can plan, have some, and we should, and if we do anything like that, we should do the same thing, but,
Are you thinking
anyway,
CART, John?
you're talking about, if we did it this March, you're talking about before anything hits the pavement, probably a year from March, give or take.
And
And
would
if
you
you
I'm
just
so
wait,
CART
confused
money?
though, I'm just confused on what we would use the money for like,
okay,
what would the transportation be?
Be
What would
cart?
it be? Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
like cart,
I'm
or-
glad you asked. Pass this one around.
Next time, pass them all out at once. I'll help you.
when I think of it, I think of like a bus in Manchester where
Yeah.
it stops at certain
Now, this
places,
is-
and stuff like that,
Right,
but.
If we were to sit
That's
here,
what we need in front of us.
if
And I
we
love
sit here
that.
for a half hour, I'm sure everybody can add to this list, but this is some of the things we can do. I forget what's on the list, but
I now have stone fingers.
Stone,
Well, John, you and I both feel strongly about the cart should be free to the
yeah,
people that are, the
that
people
is,
in need.
that would be,
At
I
least the
really
people
like that
show
idea.
I mean, yeah, that's what bothered us initially when we had a few people reaching
And
out.
that's not
that
really
they
super
couldn't afford
expensive
it.
to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for the people that just have a struggle with it.
This is great. I think if I can make a suggestion
Sure, that's why we're
on
doing
where is it? We said it would be used for, public transportation and pedestrian facilities, could we maybe change the facilities to pedestrian safety? That has your line of
yeah.
sight thing in it, and.
Well, you have to look at the,
You're using the statutory language,
I'm
that's
using,
why.
I'm
yeah.
using, trying to use the statutory language. If
'Cause
you
it
look at
says
that, you may find
facilities.
something you wanna, you can, you know, you can add pieces to it. You know, if you look at the
Okay.
regulation, it gives up some examples, and
Yes.
the pedestrian facilities was the closest thing that I could get to start help,
Right there,
start
Jim.
doing things that
Okay.
makes it easy for people to walk on the street.
He means curb.
Is this, is that curb?
Oh, curb to curb is the service we have now. If you use CART, you call them up and tell them where you wanna go, they show up. You have to be able to get to the car. They won't come in and help you from your door out.
But Elizabeth is saying, that's curve, should it be curb?
Oh, I spelled it.
C-U-R-B.
Oh, I didn't, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But John, is that something we can expand?
Could.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
Can
know,
we?
like, how would we like
It's-
pay them a monthly fee to pick up people in Londonderry, or would it be, I just don't know how how would it work, I think.
How would what work?
Well, does CART,
The-
like,
the whole-
they,
I don't-
yeah, they used to go door to door, like if you needed assistance, they'd
Sure.
come to the door, assist you out carefully, and then they stopped that cold turkey. It's
Yeah,
pretty much
they
you
had
gotta make your
problems.
way for the, depending on
Well,
who the driver is. But are you thinking we could pay extra to have curb to curb?
No,
I don't
well, I
know.
think we can pay,
I don't know if they
we can
provide
purchase
that.
we can purchase that,
Additional service?
service, but I think that, and I don't know, I don't, that's not a meeting I could have found out today and I didn't. And that is Easter Seals provides that type of service. But for whatever reason, they're not coming down into the Londonderry area and I should, I'll try to find out why. But it would take, but there are people that do that.
Don't they
Okay,
charge,
Yeah.
Easter
What?
Seals, doesn't Easter Seals charge for those services?
More than likely.
Yeah.
okay.
I
So
mean,
CART goes into like, if I call CART and I say, I need to go to the doctor's, and I'm gonna need to go to this medical facility, they come and pick me up at the curb. And then I pay my $2.50 or whatever is the one
Yeah.
way, and then they pick me up later, that whatever time they come back, it could be hours, whatever. And then, so I'm just questioning, what is this money gonna do? Like, we give it to CART and say, okay, you can pick up 20 people this
No,
month
we're-
from Londonderry, or how I don't know how it's,
I'm
how do
saying-
you
I-
make the payment?
It's expanding the services. We should, we're blessed almost compared to most towns in New Hampshire that we have CART. CART is very good, okay? We could expand them. One of the things that we don't have that we may wanna consider, for example, this is all demand response, which means they will come get you. But we could have what I would describe like a shuttle system where it's picture, that you have, and this has actually come up, you have a circular route that goes, this continues, it goes from the industrial area up by the airport, down, comes down, will stop at the 102 places in the doctor's office, go to Woodmont, and then eventually even go across this highway over to our new section of property and go in a loop. Now, I think we're probably ready to do some piece or something like that where it's just a circuit, just like a bus route
Like
is.
public
Yeah,
transportation?
like public
sort of?
transport, yeah.
So we would buy a vehicle
No,
with that
We
money?
probably, no.
Pay for
I would-
service that we do.
Oh, there's a service that would
We'd
do
buy
it,
a
okay,
service.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, yeah.
Getting into this business would be a huge undertaking.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you don't wanna do that.
let me pull us back for a second. I think what we're talking about here, because it's talking about setting this into, I forget the name of the reserve fund, but really establishing a new reserve
You have to
fund,
do that, right.
okay? So I think the warrant article should say that we're recommending that the town take advantage of the provisions of XYZ to charge an additional $5 for registration to establish a transportation improvement fund. I think that's basically what we're talking about, that would be in a warrant article. Now, the thing that's gotta happen after that, once we have a reserve fund, that's a town fund now. So now there has to be some entity that's gonna manage that fund and the rest of that.
Right.
Do you see that as like a board, maybe with the police
Well,
department
Or
and?
should we
In-
maybe
in
get
my-
Justin
in
in
my-
there? Should Justin perhaps?
What did you say, Sharon?
Justin, I'm wondering, like, as our CFO, if Justin should give us his thoughts on this?
Yeah.
Cause it seems like there's gotta be some piece we're missing.
Well,
for
especially
something
with
so
respect
big.
to the fund management piece.
Yeah,
Like he could really, because for all we, perhaps the council could be the fund manager,
yeah.
because they're already established, and then they could pick it. I can't, like, there's no way that they would say, hey, fire, you manage this, hey, police, you manage this. So he could talk, Justin could talk about the fund establishment and then the fund management piece.
Yeah,
I think
and
that'd be
how,
important
spoke
insight.
to
how
Justin.
feasible it
Yeah.
is. What did
I
he say?
had a brief conversation with
Yeah.
Justin about this and the fact that this fund needed to be set, but he, put, for him, that's just a detail, we had lots of funds that were
Sure.
managed.
And they just managed under the offices of town hall, so.
The
Yeah,
trick is,
I'm sorry,
your other point, which is one that is, I kind of, if you read this, you'll see I kind of put that in there, but I kind of just kind of called it something that would have to be done. But that's one of the reasons why I want the town to do this. I want the town to do this warrant article and sign up for it. I mean, they are taking on some,
So that it's
a little,
not
not a
us.
lot, not a lot of responsibility, and I think, yeah, it could be, we could, I guess what I would do is probably set up a small group that had representative maybe for the senior resource committee, certainly the planning, somebody from the planning board, and so on. I don't know how that would be done, but I don't see that as a thing that has to be resolved. It's
Well,
more
you
like people
basically-
have to recognize that it needs to be done.
You wanna start to establish a trust fund so that it will grow and become 800,000, $1 million, and keep
Yes.
growing it
Well,
through the years.
well, somewhere along the line,
Yeah,
we're
as it
gonna
keeps
spend the money.
going, right, yep, right, that's right. And that's the tricky part, the bandwidth to spend, to develop this.
well, the two parts again. The first part is, we want authorization to use the ability in this legislation to establish whatever that trust fund is, as a trustee of the trust fund.
Right, it's true. Wearing your other hat.
Now, that, as you said earlier, that is gonna take at least a year, or at least half a year to get anything substantial enough to, so there's time for the administrative process to bring this together. In fact, because Alona and I have been talking about it, if you remember at the last meeting, we talked about one of the benefits of the expo might be to have many meetings with providers for different things. And we thought the first thing that would be good would be transportation, because that's something that affects a lot of people. Bring in community caregivers, CART, and other people like that to just say, here's the issues we're having. If we could go along with that, add to that and say, what the town is doing right now is establishing this transportation fund that we're gonna use and in a continuing basis to improve transportation here. Let's talk about ways that you, the professionals that are doing this, can tell us how we can make that better. So, I would almost make a motion that we maybe deputize you to talk with Justin and the planning people. I'll come with you if you'd like, to talk about a draft article, warrant article for this. And I'm wondering if it even needs a warrant article.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does?
Does, absolutely has to have a warrant article and it has to have a public hearing.
Well, warrant articles have public hearings, right?
What?
Yes.
The warrant, a public
Deliberative,
hearing
it would be
specifically for
discussed,
this
yeah.
warrant article.
Right.
That's pretty common on warrant article, I think. Well, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay. But getting back into the advise and consent role, we're advising and consenting that that this looks like a good opportunity for the town to gain some resources that could be used to help seniors with transportation issues. And let's see if we can then get this warrant article moving. You said it before, we don't have an awful lot of time, but I don't think it's a difficult warrant article.
No,
Well, the
to-
town attorney would help
No.
with the writing of it, like
No.
you would have to draft something, Jonathan, they would go through the
what I,
legalities of it.
the thing that I think we need to do, okay, assuming the people, we all have obviously a vote on it, but to basically recommend, that, Senior Resource Committee, recommends that the town put a warrant article on the next ballot to enable us to, create this fund under this warrant, this RSA 261-153-6. That's all I think we need to do right now.
So you're giving them the option to say yes or no then?
Yeah, but I
the
wanna get that,
council
and then they can
Justin.
come back. I've already talked to, Mike about this several weeks ago. He thought this was a no-brainer as soon as he saw the amount of money we could get. But so I don't think there's a particular problem, but I really think that I wanna get the town, involved in this,
So is this something that, so we as the, I'm still new, guys, sorry. As Senior Resource Committee, we come up with an idea, and then we bring it to the town council and say, hey, do you like this idea? This is layman's terms.
It's like an
That's what
advisory,
I
think
think
tank
so,
kind of
sort
thing.
of
yeah.
like
That's
we-
essentially what
Advisory, yeah.
Sort of vote
Yeah.
today to say, yeah, we're all in agreement, we'd like to address the
To take the
town
next
to
step.
see if they would consider a warrant article under the RSA for transportation. And then put that in the minutes, and then at the next town meeting, maybe one of yous, not
We
me,
need to present it.
Or-
would go and say,
Or we have
we
liaison.
represent the senior resource,
Yeah.
we would like to present this to you.
Jim, do we have a liaison on the council? Is there a council
Oh.
member appointed as a liaison?
It's gonna be somebody
John.
really attractive.
John's,
Actually, it is
John's,
John,
John's the
you're
lead,
right.
her husband's.
Perfect,
It
so,
is.
so I think
Yeah.
maybe that's the approach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
I
perfect.
was just gonna say, instead of town council, say, go to the town manager, because I think, do we need the,
Well, let's go to,
I would do the
let's pick the
liaison.
let's pick the liaison, so the council, whoever the council has designated as the liaison to the
Yeah.
committee,
That's-
That
in
was
this
oh,
case,
I'm
John.
sorry,
We're
that's
supposed to
your.
do it.
Yeah,
that's
it
your-
is.
That's John, yeah.
So we
So I
would
think-
give John all this good
Yeah, so I
information
think
and have him.
we make you guys can make a motion, decide, hey, we would like to make a recommendation to John Farrell as the council liaison to the senior resource committee, that we would like to
And then he
propose
brings it
this
to-
warrant
Is that
article.
what you're thinking,
Yeah,
John, like
and then
that?
That's all I think we need to
Yeah.
get it going.
At least get the ball
Yeah.
rolling, right?
Okay,
Well,
I've been
then-
sitting here listening the whole time.
Yeah, Lois, what are you thinking?
And I
Yeah.
just see this whole conversation changing from beginning. We originally were talking about putting in a warrant article for $5 for registration for these two things, which I tend to think, as Debbie did, is it's too vague. People aren't gonna vote in the money if they want more specific about it. So I really like this, but now I hear us saying not any of that, we're simply gonna get a liaison for a warrant article for transportation. Am I correct?
No, not just transportation, okay?
To address
We can-
these
We
issues.
can go
The whole
through.
package,
we
the
can
whole
go
package.
through-
But we're not proposing that we're gonna charge a specific amount, $5 and,
Yeah, I think that's
Yes.
where they're going.
We're,
is that, I don't know where you're going.
So
we're
I think
asking,
this,
I can summarize it. The conversation migrated from the committee creating a warrant article themselves
Yeah,
to now using the committee's advisory role to the
Okay.
council, to have the council create the proposed warrant article.
okay,
Now, how that proposed warrant article is worded, I agree with both of you. I think it should state how much and where it's gonna go.
okay.
But the way the conversation morphed was, instead of the committee, because you can always do a citizen's petition to do it, so the committee
That's
could come up with
right,
it, they
too,
could get
yeah.
signatures, you could present the warrant
Okay.
article. I think the committee, by nature of being a designated town committee and having a liaison from the council, I think it would serve the committee, well, however you decide, to go to your liaison and say, we
And
would
that
like this.
liaison would write it and then bring it back to us.
Exactly, or work through town council.
Would we have a say
With the
in
town
what
council,
the
with
liaison
the-
person writes?
I would hope so,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
They would work together usually.
But I also think you take the risk of once it's presented back to the council could say this isn't the right year.
The
for that
council could
warrant.
shut it down.
They
Right.
could shut
Make
it
a vote.
down,
Oh, yeah.
because it is a tough year right now,
Right now,
with
yeah.
so many things.
Well, keep in mind, this is only a minor point, but doing this, okay, actually reduces the town's budget. Because what we pay out in the budget, $28,000 to CART.
Right.
Well, one of the things that we would be foolish not to do is use this fund to pay CART,
Yeah.
which means that the budget goes down by $28,000.
Explain that to me. It's just, to me, the 28,000 is a different source.
Yeah, it's
But how is
different
how's it
appropriation.
going down?
Yeah.
Because
The town is still paying
hey,
for it.
Well, you're bringing in
no,
the
the
2,000.
town, well,
200,000.
the town is not paying for it, you're paying for it, I'm
Right.
paying, everybody's gonna pay
We're the town.
$5 for
Yeah,
it.
we are the town.
But-
You're bringing more money to
but-
the bottom
but
line.
I mean,
You
I
pay for it
agree.
via the vehicle registration as opposed to a tax appropriation.
Yeah,
So it's a
but-
different
but-
way.
But
A
it does
different
come out of the
vehicle, yeah,
budget.
yeah.
It does come out of the budget, so, and we don't have to ever, in theory, have to put it in the budget again, because we'll be, this thing will be rolling over year after year. But, you know, I thought that this may be the worst year
I hate to say
I
it.
know,
put
that's
this
what I
on the
was
budget,
thinking.
but on the other hand, I'm sitting there saying, this is $5. My wife and I went the other day and stopped at McDonald's to get a cup of coffee. It cost $5 to buy 2 medium cups of coffee. Now, there's some people that have to buy 4 cups of coffee because maybe they have 2 cars. But I, in my wildest imagination, cannot believe that this wouldn't pass.
Well,
I'm
If
not
it
sure.
were presented, if it were presented and it wasn't
Wait,
passed this
okay.
year, could you represent it
but-
again
Oh,
next
yeah.
year?
Guys,
You already
Sure.
have the
Absolutely.
info.
guys, I
That's
think
true.
we've already got the answer. I think we can, if the answer is we're making the recommendation
Yeah.
to John Farrell,
Because we are
that-
advised.
that
That's all
they're-
we're, that's all we're
et cetera.
doing tonight.
then
I'm
Then
for
let's-
that, I'm for
let's-
that.
we can keep going on. I'd like to hit a couple of the things.
Sure,
that-
Because
okay,
you've
right.
done your homework
Okay,
for us,
okay,
John,
so-
too.
You did a
Elizabeth,
great
do
job.
you have
I
any
think.
thoughts, like anything you're thinking with
What we need to do is
Yeah,
have
it's kinda like it's a lot.
a temporary subcommittee or something to craft this
If it takes
document
so
that's so
long, we
cunning
have
that.
to start tonight.
What?
If this is gonna take so long, we'd better get started.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we have like 6 weeks or so
Oh,
for an article. Yeah.
right. I think you have the right idea, so you've done a lot of the back work already. And then, John's traveling to New York now as we speak, but he can watch the playback, which that way he can get a feel for what you're talking about. I think we just have to be realistic with the time we're in with the town, and that, you know, there's so much going on right now that we're leaving it up to the council then to make the decision as to whether or not they'll bring it to the warrant. But I think you've got the foundation. I think that's where we should probably head now
It's a
and then
good
see what
start,
they
at least,
say.
if
Yeah.
anything else.
This,
Yeah.
I looked at some of the stuff on the survey for the master plan. This whole business about the pedestrian part of this dovetails right with what they're hearing across town in terms of the congestion, not being able
It's
to
one
walk
of our
on the
biggest
streets. and stuff.
struggles,
So it's a good timing for this, to
Yeah.
do something that matches up with what people are complaining about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Wait a minute, okay, so
yeah.
we ought to get together. I still think we need to craft a cover letter type thing for this. But we have to have a vote.
I think
Somebody
you
has to bring
should
it
get
to-
together with John Farrell. You have done so much research, John, and you know so much more than I think any other person does here about this. I think
Yeah, but, you
if
know,
you could get together
Well, I
with,
can bring this all and make sure that, you know, that he has it all. And then, you know, going back and forth the two of you so that he can bring it to the council. A warrant article really isn't a lot, you know, as we know
No.
when we read them, it's
No.
just a well, formed paragraph.
Right.
Less is more really with a good warrant article. And a dollar amount, which,
Yeah.
you know, our max is the 5, really.
So we have to have
Well, John-
a,
I mean, John's
a
been
vote on
doing
that
this
too,
for a
so-
long time, he
Yeah.
understands, but we're doing, in some ways, we have this idea we're passing the baton
Yeah,
over
truly, yeah,
to somebody, to the town, and they,
yeah, which is the right approach.
But what I'm
Consistent with
thinking
your
is John
advisory
does
rules.
many things.
Yep.
You are focusing on one thing. You have the knowledge. You absolutely do.
Or maybe
Yeah.
if he were to come up with something and then you go through it all, or you come up with something and pass it to him,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, this isn't one thing that your husband, he does many things. This is one thing you're focusing on.
okay, I don't have,
Yes.
you know,
You did a
I
good job on all this, John.
I can,
Yeah.
do we have a motion?
yeah, we have create a motion.
A motion to move this,
I move that we be quiet for a second so I can think. Thank you. A motion to present to our town council liaison a proposal to take advantage of RSA 34 and RSA 35 with respect to charging an additional $5 per registration, the purpose of which will be used to create
Excuse me.
one second here.
I think it's a specific, I think it's called the transportation funds.
Capital reserve, which will be a capital reserve fund
Create,
established for the purpose of government.
yeah, I mean, municipal transportation improvement fund,
Yeah, there you
I
go.
like that,
Yeah,
the
the
name,
municipal transportation improvement.
yeah,
period, end quote.
yeah, that's what, Joe Green years ago was trying to do
Who
on
seconds the
committee.
motion?
I'll second.
Okay,
You
John.
would second it, you should be able to
John
second it.
seconds.
If you didn't, you'd be in trouble.
Where did you, I just wanna make sure that I highlight the title of it again.
Yes.
It's in the middle of the page there, it's remaining amount shall be deposited to
To
municipal
the deposit,
transportation.
he's going to get it
Oh,
underlined.
yay, okay, good, okay, so right here. Transportation Improvement Fund, forwards.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Good job,
Good job, John.
thank you for your labor.
let's see now.
At the risk of pushing my luck,
We got 5 minutes left.
okay, 5 minutes, okay, this is going forward. Like yesterday, I went to a meeting of the Commission on Aging in Concord, and the meeting was dedicated to talking about senior housing and the lack of housing in the state and so on. And I have the slide projection, and I can bring it to the next meeting, but it was not an encouraging presentation and so on. And we've talked about, housing before, and we probably ought to get after the first of the year, and next year, we ought to try to get some going. There's stuff going on in the state and so on, but to be frank with you, I think 2 years ago, I went to a meeting almost exactly like the one that was yesterday, and there was no progress
Okay.
really made. Things just got worse, but so I think we ought to try to think about what we might do.
Let me see if I can squeeze the rest of this into
Yeah.
a few minutes.
Yeah, sorry.
So we've got Rick Rowe Award,
Okay, Bonnie, I talked to Kirsten, they're working on it, it's any award has to be part of the deliberation process that they do once a year, so they're working on that. I'm canceling the December meeting because it's close to
Yes,
Christmas,
nice.
and we're gonna start in January on the first Tuesday of the month rather than the third
the third.
Tuesday, so that'll be the 7th of January. I talked to Cheston also about the status of member remote room. These teeth, I gotta get better ones. Renewals, and we're good, we gotta just
Yeah, I didn't
verify
get
that
it. I don't know
you're
why.
coming back.
I'll have to
Okay.
double check, but yes, I will.
So,
Good, good to have.
we don't have an awful lot of time to talk about. Well, let me get to the bottom C for just a second. One of the things in your package is the exemption rate for property taxes for seniors between ourselves and Wyndham. The interesting thing is that Wyndham come here. Okay. Wyndham's elderly exemption, when you get 80 years and above, goes to full value of your home.
Yes, isn't that
A
interesting?
couple towns do that.
Ours,
Oh, they do.
when you're 80 or above, it goes to $300,000. I talked to Chiston about this also the other day and recommended that we have a meeting with the town assessor to talk about this. You know, it could be the difference in the number of seniors that are in town, et cetera, but to the extent possible, particularly with the way property values are increasing, I would like to see if we couldn't do more
Yeah.
to raise that.
Especially
To
since
keep
the
people
cost
in-
of
in
living is
town.
going up.
That's
To
a
keep
very
people
good
in
idea,
town.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
last year, I had, didn't we have, I had a list of all the surrounding towns and what their policy was, and what the amounts and everything. Where did that, did we get that from someplace? I don't remember where I got it from.
That'd be good to bring back.
I just went on both town sites to grab it, cause I heard that Wyndham had the, total exemption 80 and above. So let me,
Oh, we should look at that again.
let's talk about goals for 25 starting in January. And the other thing that I would like to talk about, because we're getting, it's only actually 7, is to discuss, let me discuss for a second invitations to future meetings. Invitations being the issue that you've raised a couple of times, that we have occasionally somebody to come in and speak to us about X, Y, Z. I think the place to start to look for that is in the resource list we have for invitations to the expo. Recommendation from me for the first one would be, I'd like to hear from community caregivers,
Cindy,
because I think they have,
yeah, it'd be the
so
first
much-
thought,
and-
yeah.
it would have the additional benefit because we're on TV now and everybody, I understand just everybody can't wait to see our meetings. But other than that,
Yeah, we used to have speakers all the time, remember?
we
The-
did.
Like a 15-minute during the meeting
Yeah.
from all over, and it was really informational.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
then you could spread that information out.
I think
Do you
we've only
remember
had
that,
one in
John?
2
We did a
years.
lot.
Cause we had
Yes, yeah.
Black
Yeah.
came from the school and he had spoke when they were
Oh,
doing that,
that's right, raising money for the
yes,
kindergarten.
you know, then there's the,
Not raising money, but trying
the-
to get
yeah.
passed, yeah.
trying to remember the state agency now, and of course,
Cart
this
spinning
is,
and all
this is
that.
a senior trying to remember something, it's really fun.
I know the problem.
Oh, shoot.
But it's something we should think about bringing back, because it was it was informational, it was
very
exciting,
Yes.
you know.
I think what we could do is, for the next meeting though, give you a homework assignment. Please bring in the names of what, no. Please think about organizations you'd like to hear from for the next meeting, and we'll kind of spitball that and see if we can't, you know, do a quick prioritization thing and see about that.
Cindy, I mean, being the first community, I think that's a great one.
Yeah, and then we could do that like maybe every other month, or suspend it during the high volume time when we're working on the expo.
or we might have another person that's
Yeah.
interested as an alternate too, so.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Alona would have some great ideas for,
Did everybody who got an email from Cheerston respond as far, I think Elizabeth, myself, our
Oh, I'm sorry, I talked to her, everybody responded. She
Okay.
hadn't heard from Valerie.
I
And
didn't
so
get it.
Valerie has
I'll double
a
check when I
check
get
mark
home.
next to her name.
Okay, oh, that's not good.
Yes,
Just kidding.
her name is taken off all pylons and obelisks and the rest of it.
Melissa, are you finally getting them? It's like no, it's been a struggle. This has been for how
I
many
can
years
send
we've
it to
been
you
on
if you
this?
give me your email, I still have it.
You're
I can-
still not
I do get
getting
emails
it.
from
Remember
the
I
town,
came
on
in
the
and
town email, because I
Yes.
got
me
the
with that
agenda
gentleman and
there and
Yes.
my personal email.
My
I didn't see one
goodness.
from Kirsten, but
I'm
maybe
glad
I
that you're
missed it, so
sending
I'll
emails
look when
out.
I
We gotta
go.
figure this
Yeah.
out.
Because
I have access
I-
to the
Talk to
town
Trish
one on my
about
phone,
it.
I
Yeah.
haven't.
so
I'm
I
done
just do
with
it.
the
got
town
all the
hall.
Check.
Yeah, check and let me,
Because
because
it's
I
can't get
almost,
on.
if you
it's
call
almost
me
like
at
as
the
though
town
it's
All of a
a
sudden-
candid camera
and I
moment.
pass
Like,
it
how
on
many
to
years
you
have
the
been on
form,
the
and it's
committee?
all
I've
elect-
been
you
fortunate.
send it
I
right
have
back to her.
Why don't you just take my
Well,
email address, it's my name.
Post it
I
10.
mean,
I'll write it
Yeah.
down.
There you go.
yeah,
Let's make it a pact that we work on that.
okay.
There's a,
I'll send it to you tomorrow if you don't mind.
Just as good measure, okay?
And we're gonna follow up with Lois, as she still doesn't have an email that works.
there's an
I gave up,
organization-
Lois, I don't know what's
It's
time.
It's crazy.
I tried
Look at
to
your
hurt you.
time. It's been years
Cut me
though,
off
it's
without
been
that.
years. Yeah, it's been years.
Oh, is that
I
my
just
pen?
rely on Jim. Jim sends me another copy.
In terms of people
my
that
personal
come, that
email.
come in, organizations to come in, there's a, excuse me, there's an organization, you probably heard of it, the Alliance for Healthy Aging. It's a, I think they're tied into, UNH. But anyway, they have an excellent, presentation on, reframing aging. And it's basically how to combat, I so would say, ageism. Okay, and they say, if you hear this, you do, it's almost like teaching people how to react to some of the stuff. But I doubt if they do that presentation for 9 people, but they might do it for all the town employees.
That's interesting. I think the town hall would be open to that. That would be very interesting. Or
It's
the
an
library could do a group
It is, I tell you, it's an excellent
yeah, the library
presentation,
could
really,
open up
I
to
heard,
to the
Oh,
town,
years
do
ago
those
when I
great
saw this,
programs.
it really opened my eyes to a lot
Collaborate
of
with the senior
problems.
center.
Yes,
maybe.
that
Senior
would
center,
be
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, the library would be interested, John,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, library.
Yeah, we
would
could
be-
collaborate with the
Yeah.
senior center maybe and do
it's
something.
tough in the town hall unless it's safety, security to get everyone.
I know.
going to-
Then
Like,
we have to
would do it
close and
within our department.
it's a nightmare when we post
Yeah,
that we're
that's
closed,
tricky,
so.
yeah, but great idea.
AARP has a section of their livability thing that talks about walkable communities that might be good for the pedestrian piece of what you're talking about. Okay,
I'm just sending that email.
I think I'm gonna go home and herd some cats. But I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Aw.